Jumbo kings and queens and gender non-conforming royalty, and welcome back to another electrifying episode of Espresso Talk Today. Akwaba, I'm going to do it formally, Akwaba to the Espresso Talk Today podcast show, where we brew up the real talk on issues that matter to Black folks. I'm your host, Amma Robin, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do a check-in. No, not a check-up, though those are very important too. We're going to do a check-in. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. I don't know if you do check-ins, but I check in with myself just about every day. In fact, I do it several times a day. Check-ins are so important for everyone aged 2 to 102 and even beyond. Anyone who is working hard to succeed and uplift themselves and their families and the generations to come. They help you to stay healthy, to stay happy, and to stay alive. I'm getting ahead of myself, but we're going to get edgy today. We're going to be unapologetic, and we're going to get real because it is time to break that cycle that is hurting Black health and shortening Black lives. I know that I've told you many times that I get migraines. Sometimes I get them a lot. Sometimes I can go for months migraine-free. My check-ins make the difference. Enough about me, though. This podcast show is going to be about you. Oh, yes, we have a lot to talk about. But before we dive in, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you're feeling this show, share it with your fam, your crew, your circle, everyone in your community. Now, let's grab an espresso or a cup of tea if you prefer. Close the door and let's get it going. So what is a check-in? What does checking in mean? I know in the last segment, I was talking about it like it's a miracle cure, and it kind of is, but let me tell you more about it. A check-in is a self-assessment. It's taking a pause to assess yourself. This can be a mental health check-in, an emotional health check-in, or just a general check-in when, you do assess yourself in lots of different ways, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, all at the same time. In this frantic, fast-paced, and this outwardly looking world, it's easy to forget about and neglect and overlook how you're feeling, how you're doing, what you're experiencing, or what's happening to you, what's happening inside you, what's happening around you. Every morning we ask others, so how you doing? We rarely ask ourselves, how am I doing? And even more rare is waiting for an answer. We never do that. So that's why we are doing a check-in today. And by the way, this can be done every day. In fact, I really encourage it. There are lots of different ways to do a check-in. Meditation is fantastic. And there are so many different ways of meditating, so it doesn't have to get boring or get routine. Lots of different ways to meditate. You can take a walk in silence. Also, another form of meditation. But if you're not comfortable with that, you can take a walk in silence. You can pray. You can talk with a therapist or a trusted friend or relative. And, you can, but this really, let me go back to that for a second. Because this should be a self-assessment. So really, I encourage you to do something alone. But if you're not there, if you don't want to do that, then please talk to a friend or a relative or someone you trust, or talk to a therapist. You guys know that I'm really, really, really big on therapy. So go for it if that's what you want to do. For today's check-in, we will do a questionnaire. Yes, maybe that sounds less fun than some of the others, but you're going to enjoy this too. It is short and it's to the point, and you only answer yes or no, and there are no wrong answers here. You can say, just be honest. And then you can assess your level. We're going to do that too. Okay, as I promised you earlier, I would tell you what this check-in is about. I always keep my promises to you, fam, so I'm going to tell you. We are going to ask the question, is racism pushing you towards unhealthy behavior? I know that's a downer question, but it's important. Is racism pushing you towards unhealthy behavior? Let me back up some. For the past few weeks on the podcast show and in my newsletter, we've been discussing different ways that racism does push you to work harder, to work longer, to struggle for white approval. We've talked about white pleasing, for success, for acceptance, and even for your safety. These are called high effort coping strategies. High effort coping strategies. We've discussed the effects of these high effort coping strategies. The effects: chronic stress, anxiety, depression, insomnia, chronic illness, sometimes multiple chronic illnesses, and even early mortality. And by that I mean early death. It's not surprising that racism has been called a public health concern, really a public health crisis. It affects us in different ways. We respond to it in different ways. However, racism is a pervasive and long-lasting stressor that Black people live with on a daily basis. Yet, to lighten it up some and to be truthful, I am constantly in awe by the level of Black success and Black excellence that I read about from the past and I regularly witness today. Black success and Black excellence, however, are often achieved at a high cost. Racism and white supremacy appear as obstacles, microaggressions, biases, violence, stereotypes, denials, exclusions, and isolation. We've talked a lot about isolation recently. And these are often encountered by those who are struggling to succeed and to achieve their goals. The cost is high. Too high. Racism increases the cost. Yet we are not hindered or stopped by this cost. We keep going on, but often we're not aware that our high effort coping behavior that allows us to navigate these racism minefields are at a cost. And it's kind of a racism cost, I want to call it. Awareness is really important. And that's what the check-ins do. Awareness is essential. It's important. And with awareness, we can think, work, and act more intentionally. This awareness can also help us to understand the risk that we're taking and how to minimize that risk along the road to success. Because I don't think we should ever get off the road to success, no matter what. But we have to be able to control the risk. This week, I am presenting, I think we need to do this check-in, this short questionnaire for those who wish to learn more about their level of risk caused by high-effort coping strategies as they work towards success. This 10 questions questionnaire should only take a few minutes. We're going to do it together. The result is important. The questions are also important because they encourage you to consider your thoughts and your behavior and your motivations. And they let you know that, well, maybe this is a high effort coping strategy I didn't realize. Okay, well, so that's the check-in. Are you ready to check in on yourself? Great. Okay, we are going to take a short break and breathe for a minute. When I need to calm myself, I like to breathe. I hope you do too, or you have other ways to calm yourself. I'll see you in a minute, and we will start the questionnaire.
Anything is possible. Turn me up in the headphones. Yeah. Trying to get a lot of dough and dirt through all the obstacles, cause anything is possible. Yeah. Oh man, I got a lot of goals. Stack that bread and by my nose. Anything is possible. Yeah. Trying to get a lot of dough and dirt through all the obstacles, cause anything is possible. Oh, man,
Welcome back, Aquaba. Feeling calm? Well, maybe not. I understand it's a little bit nerve-wracking to do a questionnaire, and that's okay. Like as I said, we're doing this together. So let's get to the questionnaire. Now, please answer the following questions with either yes or no. That's it, yes or no. For every yes response, give yourself 1 point. Now, if you are driving or walking, just remember how many yes answers you give. It's important. Just remember how many yes answers you give. Okay? Let's do it. Question number 1. Do you often feel the need to work harder than your colleagues to prove your competence or worth in a professional or academic pursuit because of racial bias? All right, question number 2. Have you ever found yourself frequently explaining your actions, choices, or beliefs to white people, especially when Black issues or the Black experience comes up? Okay. Number 3. Do you feel the constant pressure to excel in your endeavors, fearing that any mistake or underperformance may be attributed to your race? Okay, next. Have you ever consciously altered your communication style, your tone, your behavior to fit into social or professional environments? Number 5. Do you frequently find yourself engaging in emotional labor, such as educating white people about racism or providing comfort to those who are uncomfortable with discussions about race? Number 6. Have you ever felt the need to achieve perfection in your work or personal life, fearing that any perceived flaws or failures will be negatively attributed to all Black people? Number 7. Do you experience high levels of stress, anxiety, or burnout related to your efforts to combat racial bias and stereotypes in your daily life? Number 8. Have you ever felt compelled to conform to certain stereotypes, such as being the model minority or the angry Black person, in order to avoid standing out? Number 9. Do you often find yourself spending significant time and energy fighting different types of racism, like interpersonal or systemic racism? Okay, and here's the last question. Have you actively sought support for your mental health and well-being, recognizing the importance of self-care for managing racism? Okay, those were the 10 questions. And that is the end of the questionnaire. I would say it wasn't so hard, but it actually is, it could be a little bit difficult, make you really think about it. And as I said, there were no wrong answers, just being honest and being yourself. Now we're going to take another short break, add up your points, then we will review the results. See you in a minute.
Anything is possible. Turn me up in the headphones. Yeah. Grind to get a lot of dough and dirt through all the obstacles, cause anything is possible. Yeah. Oh man, I got a lot of goals. Stack that bread and by my nose. Anything is possible. Yeah. Grind to get a lot of dough and dirt through all the obstacles, cause anything is possible.
Are you ready? Good. Let's get to it. If you scored in the 0 to 3 point range, 0 to 3 points, you might not be engaging in high-effort coping strategies in response to racism. This suggests that you may not heavily rely on high-effort coping strategies to combat distractions of racism in your life, you have likely found effective ways to navigate racial biases and stereotypes while maintaining a balanced and fulfilling life. It's essential to continue discussing the unique challenges and obstacles that we face, as well as remember to honor Black excellence and contributions and success. On the other hand, just something to consider, you might not recognize when you are engaging in these behaviors, or you might not be ready to admit how racism is affecting your daily life and behavior. You might also want to consider if you're pushing yourself hard enough. You might not be pushing hard enough, or if you're holding yourself back, and why you would hold yourself back. These are just considerations. Okay, for the next group, if you scored in the 4 to 6 point range, if you answered yes 4 to 6 times, you demonstrate some tendencies towards high effort coping in specific areas of your life. It indicates that you may exhibit certain tendencies towards high effort coping strategies in response to racism, but this may not be pervasive across all aspects of your life. You might find yourself using these coping mechanisms in specific situations or domains, such as at work or at school. It is worth reflecting on the areas where you feel the need to exert extra effort and consider seeking support or adopting healthier coping strategies in those specific areas. You can ask yourself, do you really need to push yourself so hard in those areas? Can you find ways to regulate the high stress areas in your life? High effort coping can have many benefits, but it can also be invidious and harmful. Okay, in the last group, 7 to 10 points. If you answered yes 7 to 10 times, you are regularly using high effort coping strategies to combat the distractions of racism. You may want to consider seeking support and exploring ways to alleviate this burden. It suggests that you are likely employing high effort coping strategies as a means to combat the distractions of racism in across various aspects of your life. While resilience is commendable and it's important, it's crucial to recognize that prolonged high-effort coping can have adverse effects on your physical and mental well-being. It's advisable to seek support, both professionally and through your community, and explore strategies to alleviate the burden of constantly proving your competence and worth. That is a burden, isn't it? Engaging in self-care, seeking therapy, and participating in collective efforts for systemic change can be helpful. How often do you take time to rest? Do you experience anxiety or depression, or do you have physical symptoms? What do friends or family members say about your work ethic or how you're handling your life? It is great that you're recognizing your high effort coping strategies, but it is important to take care of yourself. Allow yourself to rest. Allow yourself to enjoy life. A culturally competent therapist can be very helpful. So that was for the 3 different groups, but I want to say for everyone, no matter how you scored today, certain tools can be helpful. Meditation, regular exercise, a healthy diet, journaling, and connecting with your community. These can help you to live healthier, happier, and less stressed lives. Racism, it's serious that racism is a public health crisis, and it is shortening Black lives. And we have to, on an individual basis and collectively and as a community, we have to stop that cycle. Let's take one last breather break here. Then we're going to wind it down. And I got some extra information that I think you're going to want to know. See you in a minute. So how did you score? How did you score? So remember to consider taking this questionnaire every month, especially if you have a high score. And remember that this questionnaire is a tool for self-reflection and self-awareness. It's really a self-check-in. It's important to recognize that high-effort coping can have both positive and negative effects, and addressing systemic racism is a collective effort that goes beyond the individual responses. Remember to seek support, engage in self-care, and participate in community and cultural efforts to heal individually and collectively. And I always throw this in. Remember, the real enemy isn't that you're working hard, isn't that you're striving for success. It's the real enemy here is white supremacy and racism. That's what we need to defeat. I also want to tell you about Professor Sherman James. He's been on our show several times, amazing epidemiologist, and he has made a questionnaire to determine one's level of high-effort coping behaviors to deal with economic and social adversity. It is called the John Henryism Active Coping Scale. I mean, this is really scientific here. And this is a really informative questionnaire, and it can and should you take it every few years. Circumstances change, so you can find the questionnaire on the Espresso Talk Today website at espressotalktoday.com. It's on the Habari page. Habari, remember, means knowledge in Key Swahili. So you'll find it on the website. A big asante sana to Professor James for allowing us to include this questionnaire. To you, congratulations for showing the courage and making the effort to examine your thoughts, your actions, your patterns, your behaviors. And yes, this does take courage, and you brought it. So, big congratulations to you. Please share this questionnaire with your family, your friends, and everyone else in your community. Remember, we got to check in with ourselves, and we can check in with each other. That's a wrap for today's show. Asante sana for being here today. Please subscribe, rate, and share this episode. And remember, we are not just sipping coffee, we are brewing change. Also, remember, my fellow warriors striving for success, know this deep in your soul, you are not alone. Your experiences, your stories, your triumphs, they all matter. You matter. And if you want to keep discussing or reading about these issues, then you should definitely subscribe to my weekly Black Empowerment newsletter called The Nomo Beat. We discuss lots of different things there, so you can get your dose of Black empowerment every week. Never a dull moment, but lots of growth moments. You can subscribe at the Espresso Talk Today website, espressotalktoday.com, or on Instagram at AmaRobinL. That's Ama_Robin_L. And you can find this questionnaire and its interpretation on the website. By the way, we hope that you'll join us on Instagram to discuss these issues, share your thoughts, and find an uplifting and safe space for yourself. Find us on Instagram at AmaRobinL. I'm Ama Robin for Espresso Talk Today, and remember, now more than ever, strength, soul, and reparations. Ashe, community.